Hola, I'm Daddy Luna. On Instagram, Daddy Luna _. On TikTok, I am Daddy Luna. I hope to see you guys over there. Today, I have a really good topic. And it's all about I have tried everything under the sun. Todo. And nothing has worked for me. Nothing has worked for me. So there's a couple of things about that. But one thing I can tell you is that today's video, it's really going to give you a perspective that it's going to change your mind about that statement. Yes, it will. Let's get started. Okay, so how am I going to change your mind about the statement? Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge you. If you are feeling like just nothing is really working, I can relate to you. We all can, because as human beings, it's very frustrating to just be trying to change something, to move something, to get out of a feeling of stuckness, and nothing really works. If we start thinking, and with all reason, that there's something wrong with us, that there must be something wrong either with us, with somebody, like there's something that we need to fix. Now, let's look at this and bear with me, because I do have to lay down this 3 levels so that we understand the loop of change. So the first thing to consider is that in order to have thoughts in our brain, which is the primordial beginning of any change or any movement in our life, right? That thought comes from some sort of brain programming, right? That brain programming comes from, we already know, either a parent or a lineage, right? We already have some sort of programming that happened very early, even before we were born, in our mother's or mother womb, or also keeps forming through our relationship with our caregivers. That programming defines our thought process, right? Repeated thought process defines our belief systems, right? Our belief systems then impregnates our emotions, meaning when I start believing something, that belief gives me an emotion about that. And it is with that emotion that then I go and make some sort of behavior happen based on my emotion, based on my belief, based on what I thought, right? Based on my inner programming. That behavior then gives me some sort of result, right? And that result that looks like it's manifested in this world, whether it is by the answer of another human being that is in front of me, whether it is a big collective, an organization, a company, a project, whatever it is, life in and of itself performs some sort of result based on the behavior that I took on. Yeah, and that result can seem like it's not moving from the last time I've tried, or that result can seem very different from the time I've tried. But whatever that result is, that again then affects our inner programming, right? And creates that loop. So I believe something, the repeated thought of that creates that belief. The belief then creates an emotion. The emotion helps me behave. The behavior creates a result. And the result then injects more information into my brain programming. That also makes me have a new thought that then in a repeated way becomes a belief. And then so on and so forth. Yeah. So what that means is I'm not sharing like, oh, this is pretty. It's not a theory, right? It's what we have discovered as human beings through neuroplasticity, through biology, through neuroprogramming, right? This is the way that the loop goes on and on for us. What that means for us, just for the sake of this video, is that a behavior in and of itself, And when I say nothing's working, means that the behavior in and of itself in that loop, it's not standing by itself. It's deeply, 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 deeply entangled with these other things that I've mentioned in the loop: repeated thought, brain programming, emotion, belief, and so on. And so when I just try to approach whatever situation in my life just by changing my behavior, okay, let's put an example. Let's say that I have a programming that says, selfish people, very subconscious, I'm not able to see that, but for the sake of this video, right? Selfish people are not good to have in our lives. So there is a repeated thought of hearing my mom saying that to my father, for example, or to a friend. And then that repeats itself in my brain as a means of protection, as a means of safety. Yeah. And then I'm standing in front of somebody that I'm having a romantic relationship with, and I perceive this person based on my belief that comes from a repeated thought from my inner brain programming that this person is being selfish, right? So I perceive this person being selfish, and then I feel an emotion. That emotion, right, according to my set of beliefs, is telling me this is a good thing or this is a bad thing, right? If it's a bad emotion, it's a low, there's no good or bad emotions, but if it's a low frequency emotion that makes me feel hurt or some sort of pain, then I am going to react in a specific way. So my behavior, let's say in this example, would be, hey, you are being selfish. You either do this or I live. I'm going to leave the relationship, because the way I am programmed to react to situations like this is by giving an ultimatum and, feeling confident and independent enough that I can leave. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just walking you through the loop of behavior and through the loop of change and what happens inside human brain, right? So when I do that and take that action, I have set off a behavior that then is going to give me a result. What's the result going to be? Let's say that this person says, oh, yeah, you can leave. I'm not changing, right? So I grab my things and I go. That's the result. The relationship ended, okay? Then that information from that result, it's injected again into that same programming that says, yes, selfish people needed to go. You cannot be with selfish people. You identify selfish people and you do whatever it needs to, and it just becomes a circle. So if I come to you and say, oh, this happened because you your behavior was out of control. That's not a way that you act in front of the situation. You should have changed the behavior. Okay, so next time in your next relationship, or when, let's say, you do keep dealing with this person again, you're going to act differently. Instead, you're going to do this or that. Can you see that just changing our behavior is not sustainable enough, because there's deep roots under every single aspect of that loop of change that I just mentioned? That behavior is not just hanging there by itself. It's coming and deeply connected to a lot of other things that are stored in our brain at a cellular level that our mind cannot even grasp or access yet. So if you try to change in a behavioral way only without touching all the other aspects of the changing loop, your results, if you get any different results, are not going to be sustainable, because we're pretty much ignoring the origin of that behavior. that comes from an emotion, that comes from a belief, that comes from a repeated thought, that comes from brain programming. Yeah, we're singling it out. And so chances are, in all my experience, where I see it in others and in myself, I say, hey, the fact that I know this doesn't mean that it's challenging for me to see it right in myself, is that we are only relying on the changing of behavior to get different results. That's number one. That's probably what you've been doing. And this is why diets don't work, right? This is what, because we are either relying on changing of our own behavior. Oh, now I'm going to have willpower and I'm going to go to the gym every day, right? Or I'm not going to get, I'm not going to get that violent or angry anymore. I swear, from this point on, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Because when we do that, we are ignoring the deep process that happens in our brain as humans. We're just seeing things on the surface and we're not going underneath the surface. And the reason why we're not going underneath the surface, it's because we want instant satisfaction. It's really hard for us to understand that all that work of going underneath the surface needs to be done just so I can eat better, just so I can be more fit, just so I can have better relationships. Well, that's exactly the whole purpose of life. That's what we're here for. All of those little triggers and uncomfortable rocks along the path are there as signals of, hey, check the whole loop. Hey, check the whole loop. It's not just about changing behavior. It's also not just about riding on the idea that the circumstance changed. Yeah, because a lot of times we do this too, right? We say, oh, okay, so now that this person is not here anymore, I am free and this problem is not going to come back to me anymore. Let's say that it wasn't because I gave the ultimatum, but it was because, life by itself shifted and that person needed to live my life, needed to go on and do something else. And so we feel like, problem solved. Yeah, problem is solved because we think that the problem is what's reflected in the other person. Yeah, same thing happens with diet. Yeah, we think that we eat a lot because we have the sweets in our cabinet. So problem solved if I don't have the sweets in the cabinet. Problem solved if I just hire somebody to hold me accountable and force me to not eating. Problem solved if I don't have to go to any party, which is where I want to eat. Problem solved if I just have to work from 5 to 8 and I don't travel and do that activity where it's when I want to have to eat. And that's not true, right? Because the reason why I'm overeating or undereating or whatever it is, the problem that I have with eating, is coming from a deep programming that happened with my father or mother figure in this case, where the first time I was receiving nurturing, something happened there. And so in order for me to really shift that whole thing, I have to start with my inner programming. That's why it's not that behavior doesn't work. It's just that behavior is not sustainable. Behavior, it's part of the plan. We do want to change our behavior, but we can simultaneously do all of it or have a plan, a roadmap to single and start with different things, but not just put all of our eggs in the basket of behavior is going to solve my life. Yeah. That's why we go through life saying, I've tried everything. Yeah. I've tried to, my hair is falling. I try to put oil. I try to this. Somebody told me it's because I wasn't sleeping, because I haven't drinking enough water, because this or that. I'm not going to the root. That's my answer. If you've tried everything and you feel that nothing has worked, it's because you're not going to the root. And also, you might be going to the root and still it's not working. Keep going. It's a process. It's a life process. Depending on what you're hidden in that root, because the way I see it is like we are caving, like we're looking for the stuff. We're like detectives, right? Going into her brain, going into her past, looking for some, why do I feel like this? What can give me a hint? In life, it's always there giving you tons of hints. And all of a sudden, we stumble upon one big hint. It takes time to process that. It takes time to integrate that. It takes time to assimilate it. It takes time to digest it. We get distracted. Oh my God, we get so distracted, not only with behavior change, but we get distracted with what worked for other people who have completely different inner programming, thoughts, and beliefs. But we want to try what worked for the other people, and we get distracted. And we spend 2 years doing that, 3 years doing that. And then we come back to our senses again. Oh my God, what have I done? Blah, blah, blah. Somehow I let myself down. I didn't even realize it. And then we get back into the road again. It takes time. It takes patience. But more than anything, watch out for changes that are only superficial, that are only touching behavior, and that you're depending, you're relying your whole fulfillment and your ability to create significance in the world for your life based on behavioral changes only. It's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. Yeah. So sometimes you might need help, right? Sometimes you might be like, okay, I just can't with this. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I'm so in it that I don't see it. And this is why we are in a whole new era where the inner work is what matters, where well-being is what matters, where understanding our brain, understanding how our inner programming is working, our emotional intelligence, everything that has to do with mental health matters so much more than what used to matter before. Before was like, how much can I accumulate? How long do I take, is it taking to get to my destination? Because I need results, I need things. Now we don't need results. Now we're not using behavior to change results. We are going back to the root so that we can name it to tame it. And we're reprioritizing our mental well-being over our physical well-being, because our physical well-being, it's important too, but is a consequence of our mental behavior. Everything is a consequence of our ability to reach that emotional intelligence. And it all depends on the work I have to do based on my unique upbringing. And so this is why we need to consider, oh, okay, I need a therapist. I need a friend. I need somebody to bounce ideas from. And right at the moment where we are isolating the most, we are being presented with all of the consequences of the idea that we had as human beings of being out of touch with each other, because it is being in touch with each other that we can grasp that, healing for our mind, for our brain, for our soul. It's all there entangled in a divine order together. But we can't do it alone a lot of the times because we can't see it, because it's under the surface, it's in a subconscious level. We don't know that we're doing it. Yeah. We only know that the results that we're getting are not aligned with who we are, and we're lost. We lost our authenticity. We're not in touch with our dreams. We're not in touch with who we want to be, who we are. And so we are stuck and distracted in distortions and illnesses and relationships that are not working for us, but we are trying to figure it out through that inner programming that only worked when we were babies and we were trying to feel safe. So it's time to go back there and rearrange that inner programming, remold that. I hope this whole video was helpful for you. to see the fact that things are not working, and it's because you're doing a great job with behavior, but you are forgetting about all the other parts of the loop of change. And behavior, it's not sufficiently enough for a sustainable change in your life. Bye, guys.